Dr. Chandni Singh is a researcher and a faculty member at the Indian Institute for Human Settlements in Bangalore. She works on the interface of climate change and adaptation and development with a focus on agrarian livelihoods and rural to urban migration. And today, Chandni will talk to us about farming in the city, linking urban agriculture to people's well-being and urban sustainability. Chandni, over to you.
I'm Chandni Singh, and I've been working mainly on agriculture actually in rural areas, and now for the past 4 or 5 years been focusing on urban and peri-urban systems and how livelihoods and agriculture really is seen in cities. So I would like to talk a bit about this project that we've started recently at the Indian Institute for Human Settlements, but we also have multiple partners such as Azim Premji University, IIT Madras, and also international partners working in Tanzania, where we're really trying to explore this idea of urban and peri-urban agriculture and try to see what is the status of it in India, what is happening, what are the different practices people are doing, and then also trying to ensure that our project really, the evidence that we find in our project really starts a conversation around the multiple benefits of urban farming, both at the city scale and at the national scale. And the project, I mean, this is just a snapshot of our website, which we recently launched, and I'd really invite all of you to look at the website just to understand who else in the project, what are the main aims of the project, and also to contribute from your own practice of urban farming, really. So in this project, what we're focusing on really is trying to explore urban agriculture in Bangalore and Pune. I mean, we also focus on peri-urban agriculture in the peripheries of these two cities, but here I'll speak mainly about urban gardening and urban farming. So one of the first things we're trying to explore, and we've already started talking to a lot of urban gardeners and farmers, is who's really farming, who in the city is growing food, and also what are the motivations for farming. So why are people farming? And our initial findings suggest that there are a range of practices going on. So we've got individuals who are farming in their backyards or their kitchen gardens, on their balconies and their terrace gardens. So we've got that kind of farming going on. We've also got people who are in informal settlements, for example, migrants coming into the city, living in informal settlements and growing a few plants, whether herbs like curry patta and mint and coriander, or even things like aloe vera, growing them in little recycled cans and tin vessels. So you've got a range of kinds of agriculture happening, I think, within the city. And then when you look at the peripheries, you realize that there are, of course, the traditional farmers, so people whose main livelihood is farming, and that's like their primary source of income. But you've also got these new methods of farming. So collective farming is coming up, where urban dwellers are going out into peri-urban areas, leasing land, and maybe collectively farming or individually farming. And I think Bangalore sees a lot of that, and it's a growing trend in Bangalore. Coming to why people are farming, I think from our initial work, again, there are two main buckets of what motivates people to farm. And I think from our own, I mean, I guess many of the people who are listening are also people who enjoy growing vegetables and their own food. They're seeing that, what we find is that there are two main reasons why people farm. One is around personal satisfaction and well-being. People talk about the joy they get when they see that something they've grown is actually sprouted and you're able to get vegetables and sometimes fruits from all kinds of fruiting trees in backyards. So there's this idea of personal well-being and feeling happy and satisfied with what you're able to grow. Another whole section of people speak about sustainability concerns, and that's what's motivating them to farm. So they talk about things like, we want to see where our food is coming from. We want to see what kind of inputs go into our food. There's a lot of, I think, awareness also building around things like all kinds of chemical fertilizers that go into our food, polluted water that is often used. So I think there's a growing sense of environmental awareness, and that's also shaping people to want to grow their own food, and this motivation to farm. And then finally, I think there's also something more intimate and personal around motivations of urban agriculture, which is many people talk about wanting to motivate their children to know how to grow food, to touch soil and understand how, for example, worms in the soil affect the quality of soil and how that affects food and growing and all of that. So I think there are these multiple motivations that we see. And what's important, I think, in all of this is to remember that all of us do farm and grow food for different reasons. So if we do want to scale these practices up beyond just individual things at a wider regional or city scale, understanding these motivations is really critical. Then coming to, we've also seen that farming practices have really changed over time. So although we now read a lot about urban farming, it's so nice to even see like leading newspapers also carry pieces on urban farming and what you can grow and how you can grow it. But urban agriculture is not new. At least since the 1980s, we have evidence that both in Pune and Bangalore, people have been growing, again, in their balconies and terrace farms and all of that. But there has been a change in the kinds of crops that are being grown. It was, I think, there's been a shift away from only ornamentals and herbs to more growing of food crops, growing of even exotic herbs, things that are not typically used in the Indian cuisine, but there's been that broadening of the kinds of crops that are grown. And then also there's been an entry of all kinds of new actors. So you've got little neighborhood collectives, you've got people informally building out WhatsApp groups. You've got a whole lot of what we call, what researchers call knowledge brokers. So people who do farm and then who bridge the gap between farmers and other people. So trying to really bring together different practices. And we've also got a whole range of so-called experts who are coming in with new technologies like aeroponics and hydroponics. So I think there's quite a shift we are seeing in how urban farming is being done. Finally, I'd like to just talk a bit about what are the outcomes or the impacts of urban farming. And that is really the core of this research project. And I think it's something that we, as urban gardeners and farmers, and also as concerned citizens of these big growing cities like Bangalore and Pune, should be thinking about. So the two real impacts we are exploring in this project are what are the well-being outcomes, so on households, on individuals, on communities and neighborhoods, and then what are the sustainability outcomes for urban and peri-urban farming. When I say sustainability, I mean things like how is urban agriculture impacting water flows, for example, water use, or solid waste recycling, wastewater reuse. So those are the kinds of things we're trying to look at. And what we have seen actually is that for a lot of people who do farm and grow their own food in the city, these practices are often linked to other sustainability practices like rainwater harvesting, like recycling one's kitchen waste, or vermicomposting, or no-till agriculture. So I think there is a space to link these very individual practices of urban farming with broader goals of sustainability. Finally, what we've been doing in the project is also trying to understand, while all this is happening at a very micro level, at an individual level, what's happening in urban policy? Are our city governments, are our city master plans really recognizing urban farming and seeing all it can do? And what we find so far is that the master plans in both cities don't really talk about urban agriculture and peri-urban agriculture in any substantial way. Of course, there is some top-down action or government-led action, such as guidelines on solid waste management or guidelines on rainwater harvesting. So in Bangalore, for example, apartment complexes with more than 50 households are supposed to have some system of recycling their wastewater and reusing it. So there are these guidelines that are led by the government, but they seem to be somewhat disconnected from this bottom-up movement of individuals who are doing urban farming. So that is what we really want in this project, to bridge that gap and use some of the evidence that we're collecting to, first of all, enable a conversation about urban farming, and then of course try to scale it out further by engaging citizens, by talking to have, like, having these kinds of online discussions. But also we plan to do a couple of public exhibitions where we bring some of these stories really into the city and talk about them. I think at a personal level, we do understand the benefits of urban farming, but there seems to be a disconnect within our policy making. And really, there's very little recognition, both at city and national levels, about the benefits that urban farming can provide. And so this is, so I'll end here, but just to say that please do keep a watch on this website. We'll also be running a survey. We had hoped to have it actually online by now, and I would have spoken about it, but please keep a watch on this website, and hopefully we'll be in touch with many of you to, as and when we get more results from our project. Thanks so much.
I am curious to understand, during these last couple of months, from both of you, Sheetal and Chandani, what have the during this time of COVID, we at least have seen a real change in the kind of conversations we've been having around growing food. People are more interested. A lot of people want to participate in this activity. How have you observed this change in the last couple of months, because of the pandemic, because of people on lockdown, because of a shock to the food supply chains, and how do you see that continuing post in a post-pandemic world?
Yeah, I think at least from what we've been seeing, COVID-19 has provided an opportunity to get more people into the conversation. I know that people who weren't at all doing anything about growing their own food are increasingly, trying to see that, at least at the start of the pandemic, there was also a lot of uncertainty around availability of vegetables, for example. In Chennai, there was a huge market that was closed down because of outbreaks of the disease. So there was this, I don't know if it'll last long, but at least in these few months we've seen there's more awareness around growing food. That's on the one hand. And then on the other side, you've got this whole, switch that has happened in social media, where people are just posting pictures of tomatoes they're growing and coriander that's failing and all of that. And I feel, while these might seem a little ad hoc, and especially as researchers, we say, is this really a trend, or is this just something we're seeing for the short term? But I feel even these very informal and individual kinds of things that we see on social media can really, through peer learning and people getting ideas from other people on Instagram, on Twitter and all of that, can really shape a movement towards growing food. So we do see some examples already, and I feel that it's going to continue for longer. So this idea of people growing their own food.
Thank you. Anusha asked, how much of what we grow as consumers is enough to feed us?
That's, I think, one of the things we hopefully want to look at in this project, which is that how much do you really need to, and how much space is there in a city really to be able to feed the city itself, and really model into the future what are the places one can do urban agriculture to make the city sustainable food-wise. But one must realize that there's so many constraints within a city. Land is precious. If everyone starts farming, water is another precious input. So I think it's not as simple as, there are multiple trade-offs associated with growing food in the city. That is also important to just recognize.
Pranoy Tipaya from YouTube asks, there are markets, Russell and Malleshwaram among others, which see diverse and fresh produce coming in every day. But shopping at such places isn't common when compared to Delhi. How do we change that?
Yeah, I think I'd like to come in there because I'm someone who's from Delhi and lived in Delhi for a long time, and then moved to Bangalore and lived in Bangalore for a long time. And I feel that Bangalore actually has a more thriving culture around buying local as compared to Delhi. And why I say this is because we've got this fascinating or very, very robust system of hopcoms all across the city, where produce is sold, which is fresh produce grown in and around Bangalore. So I feel that, and of course it also comes from other places far off, but that's one decentralized system of vegetable and fruit selling that happens. It may not look like a market, like a mandi, but it also is one of the places that a lot of city dwellers go to shop in. So I feel that it's also important to understand that I think different cities, the way that they connected with food and the way food is bought and sold is very different. So these comparisons might be a bit false in some cases.
Anusha asked, what are some practical challenges in reusing urban spaces like tall buildings for greener rooftops?
I think there are challenges and some examples of people actually using these quite well. So, as in the next discussion, I think someone, Pooja from IHS, will speak about using terrace gardens to actually grow food and grow enough food for an entire organization, a small organization. So I feel that there are lots of experiments going on where you can use different strategies to use terraces or rooftops to grow. But some of the challenges I think are in terms of the structure of the building, like if you're using very heavy materials, if you have shading, so like structurally can the building take it? And then secondly, some places, even in Pune, actually we found that some reports of if you are using a lot of water or if there's water collecting on the roof, there can be issues of leakages. So there are those kinds of, I think, more practical concerns that people have. But overall, the examples of it going well are much more than the ones that examples of things going badly. So I feel that really rooftop gardening is something that's, I mean, there's a lot happening and there are lots of options. There are all kinds of models actually of growing on rooftops where you have you can have pots or you can have small structures with just even like half a foot of soil, and people are growing things like spinach and methi, like fenugreek and leafy greens. So I would actually say there are fewer challenges and more examples of success.
Thank you very much, Chandani, for this session and just understanding the foodscape of Bangalore through these agriculture ecologies and urban agriculture. And we're really looking forward to learning more about your project as well as we go along.